Hi, my name is Tammy and this is my project for Digital Humanities. My project idea is to look at how poetry set to music, specifically Robert Frost's poetry, and the neurological effects that it has on children. There have been many studies shown on brain activity and the neurological effects of poetry and music to the brain, but not together. While there have been some studies done of poetry set to music, nobody has looked at the effects of Robert Frost's poetry set to music and the effects that it could have on the brain. Studies show that both poetry and music affect the thalamus of the brain, which is the information intake center of our brain. By stimulating the thalamus with both music and or poetry, it affects different areas of the brain, which also affects how people learn. My target audience for this study would be both educators and parents. For educators, it would allow for different learning in the classroom by bringing in both audio and visual components, and by bringing in poetry that many students would never look at or read outside of the classroom, and even in the classroom might fight about learning it. By putting the poetry to music, the students have a different method of looking at the poetry and understanding what the poet is trying to get across. Teachers can bring in other forms of educational tools such as images and videos to match what the poet is talking about, to stimulate the other senses as well as the learning process that is going on. Journals that this could be published in would be the Journal of Neurosciences for neuroscience, the APA Journal for psychology, the Poets Review for literature. The possibilities are endless. The impact this would have on digital humanities is not only the website that could be built that would tie all of the learning together and give access to Robert Frost's poetry, the manuscripts, the books and interviews he has, that could all be located in one central source that teachers and parents alike could access. It would also have the scientific studies, which would allow for parents and educators to see exactly what science and education can pull together and learn from. For the parent side of this could affect how children behave outside of the classroom as well as inside. By placing poetry to music, you could open up whole new genres of what the child could be interested in. Many children are not interested in poetry, but they love music. By putting the poetry to music, you can bring more children into an art form that they may not ever be introduced to in any other situation. The impacts of this study would greatly benefit both literature, science, humanities. There's no downside to it. All of it would be for the betterment of the children and their education. The upside to this would be the studying. The hard part of it would to actually be to do the one-on-one study with the effects on the brain due to the scientific nature of the study and the machinery needed for the study. You would have to get with a science group that would have access to MRIs and CAT scans to be able to use that equipment, and the cost for that is pretty high. However, there are studies and grants available where we could do that. By having all this information available online, then people who would like to know how this affects the brain and the effects that it could have on their classroom would have access to all of this material. I have contacted the University of Boston about using some of their facilities, and I've also contacted the University of Buffalo to see if they would be interested in the study as well. That still remains to be seen because I've not heard back from them. But by getting the backing of a major university with this idea, I think it would have tremendous impact on the education of people from all walks of life. Thank you.